Oh, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome so much to this session. Operator C-level executive panel, the most important people of the day, talking about the TV landscape post-COVID. Now, we all know lots of things have happened. My name is Monique van Dusseldorp. I will be the moderator. And in a second, I'm going to introduce my four panelists. What we want to talk about is the impact of COVID-19 on the trends and changes during, after lockdown. Anyway, the world is changing and we've had an enormous acceleration in change as well. And my four guests today have gone through this and have experienced this and will now share their ideas on what this means for content strategy, innovation and technical investments, and also their views on the market evolution, to where we are taking this from here. Now, let me introduce them. Here they are. Victoria Boklak. You are CEO and Vice President Marketing and Media of the United Group. And for those that don't know, you are both a telecom and pay TV operator, a media company, active in various countries in Central and Eastern Europe, but also in Greece. What happened for you during this pandemic? What's the most important thing that happened?
Well, thank you. Hello to everyone. It's hard to say whether a lot of changes, actually, a lot of things happened, but I'm not sure I can connect them 100% to the pandemic. So for us and for our company, especially in paid TV segment, I mean, we are also active in other, you can talk about broadband and mobile, but, if you talk about paid TV, two very important things happened. So first of all, we introduced personalization on our pay TV platform, which we believe is really the future, because we see the trend of TV consumption going away from the first screen to individual devices and to even different types of consumption of formats of content. So it was a big step for us in that direction. And the second big thing that happened to us, but I guess to everybody, even more to the guys from a more developed countries, let's say like Sweden and in the north, is the rise of really OTT guys and the launch of the B2C strategy of the Hollywood studios. Now, was it pandemic or not? But this definitely happened, and some of the countries are affected more than the other ones at the moment. But being a paid TV kind of operator, and I really see that there is a big fight for entertainment, for screens, for subscribers, for their attention across across the whole, across all devices, across all platforms. So it's the landscape has really started to be redefined.
Great. Well, we're definitely going to discuss all of that, but new competitors, very competitive market space right now, and personalization is the thing you've been working on. Jonas, you had quite a challenge, because you basically put together a joint venture between Canal Digital, Telenor, Viasat, NENT, two platforms putting together. I mean, this is a challenge in any time. I can imagine it's even harder during a pandemic when everybody's sitting at home and working from home. What was your main challenge during this pandemic so far?
Hi everyone, and thanks for that introduction. You're absolutely right. I think we have been under quite special circumstances, given the fact that we actually created Alenta on the 6th of May back in 2020, which was sort of the early days of the pandemic. We came in with a very ambitious transformation and integration plan to create Alenta from Viasat and from Canal Digital. And I think it's fair to say that we've actually done, and we're ahead on the plans that we originally had, but we've done the entire merger over Teams. And I think that is it's one of a kind. It feels like we've been writing the textbook of how to actually do that. But I think that there's so many learnings. One of the key learnings from sort of our internal perspectives is obviously the fact that you can work very efficiently also from a home office setup. That is a key learning. Things are getting quite interesting now when the travel have been opened up and the national restrictions would allow for cross-border traveling. So we have some sort of accumulated depth, I would say, in terms of sort of the cultural integration that we're addressing now. And it's so fun to meet all the colleagues. From a business perspective, I think, first of all, our product, TV, being a TV distributor, has been more relevant than ever. The sort of the home office and the home situation has actually benefited our core product. So from that sense, I think it's been quite interesting. What was referred to here before as well, that we've seen a sort of an acceleration of the SVOD penetration. I think that holds true as well, also in the Nordics. Maybe not that many new entrants entering into the Nordics because they've been here for quite a while. But we really see, sort of from a consumer perspective, a change where SVOD is becoming increasingly important. Customers are stacking up not only 1 and 2 and 3 SVOD services into their subscriptions, but quite a few. So that SVOD acceleration is an important driver for us as well here in the Nordics.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that as well, because I think the overall market situation is, how are we going to deal with a few giants and lots of other players with telecom and broadcast? Big discussion. But let's first introduce my other two guests. Dimitris, the OT group. I think you also did something really special, because you basically launched at the end of 2019, so right before the pandemic, a new OTT service, which was super successful. I mean, I understand you have almost as many subscribers as Netflix in Greece, right? Tell us a little bit more. I mean, you really launched throughout the pandemic. This was your growth time.
Well, yes. First of all, hi everyone. It's great to be here again at Nextv Series, and thank you to the Data Access team for putting it on virtually. And I hope we finally meet in person very soon. So talking for the pandemic, we actually launched our streaming service right before the breakdown of the virus, and this really accelerated the take-up for us and the adoption from our customers. It was unbelievable how fast the consumers really changed their behavior. So we saw Netflix rising in Greece, and at the same time our own service as well. We have in Greece now more than 600,000 customers, out of which in the pandemic, in the first year only, we had 250,000 customers accessing the service. So it was a very fast take-up. And this allowed us to be relevant and actually be relevant in a landscape in where the consumer behavior is changing, and is, as the previous speakers discussed, is going towards SVOD consumption. So we were lucky enough to be ready to be serving our customers and engaging them with SVOD content when the pandemic hit. And this is now also proving to be one of let's say the big retention tools we have for the for the next steps that we're planning.
We're going to discuss the the super relevant local content afterwards, but what was the most popular channel you have? I think it was a history channel, right? I mean, I think that's so interesting, because that would never make it in the Netherlands, I assure you. A history channel.
History channel, yes. Our Cosmote History channel is the #1 channel in the genre of documentaries. So it's by far the most, let's say, popular channel in the documentaries genre, ahead of the big brands. And we are very happy about it. We have already produced more than 130 documentary series. We are discussing also with other operators outside Greece. We can sub-license. We have co-produced with National Geographic. So we are really into this, and it's really helping us to differentiate in the Greek market using a difficult genre, I have to say, but Greeks love history.
Yeah, but true local market knowledge can still bring an edge. Jörg Meijer from Zatu. I mean, you've also, as a company, have gone through quite a change, I understand, because well, you do several things, right? You both have your own channels, and you are a white label supporter of TV channels that want to differentiate and go via different. I think you see how this industry is changing and what is part of an operator's task and what can be outsourced, and how this interplay of all these different partners now is going to work. How was your pandemic?
I mean, there are many dimensions how to look at that. And many, let's say, general impacts already have been covered by Victoria, Jonas, and Dimitris. When we look at SAT2, on the one hand side, we saw that there are very good things also that we can see. I mean, a lot of things have been accelerated, trends in the market that we saw before already. One is simply as that the increased media consumption overall. And this holds true for TV, but also on demand. But overall, that's, first of all, that's a very good sign, yeah, a very good thing. Then on the other side, there are things that have been mentioned already, like on-demand usage is increasing. More devices have to be looked at also, especially in the area of connected TV. And all this brings a lot of more, let's say, expectations regarding a TV platform and comes with a lot of challenges. When we then, so looking at this on a more, let's say, broader market perspective, there are a lot of, I would say, opportunities, but they come with challenges. When you ask me about concrete examples that show what can be done even in times of a pandemic, then I would like to highlight a project that we've done in Africa, actually, from Europe, totally remote. And just 2 weeks ago, an IPTV operator launched for the first time a product in Madagascar. It's the Telma Group, and it's running on our TV platform. And the whole project was set up and run through being remote. And this at least shows, let's say, from my point of view, in a nice way that a lot of things are possible even in these times.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I look around, it's, I mean, the response to from companies and individuals to the pandemic is there's a group of people that are absolutely struggling because life is really hard, and there's a group of companies and people that say, whoa, creativity, new things can happen, everybody has a lot more time and we don't have to do a lot of things we did before. It seems to be an area of very fast innovation. Now we want to discuss both content strategy and innovation and technical investments, and I think both of these are to be discussed against the backdrop of, okay, there is an enormous advantage in scale. We have the big streamers, be it Netflix, Disney, you name it. There's a whole row of them these days that are targeting many European markets. The northern markets are a bit earlier than the southern markets. Still, they're everywhere right now. And it's not about just competition from really big companies. It's actually about how does this industry work? What is local? What is international? How can you get the size needed to develop your own technology, software, strategy, or do you combine it? Now, if you look at the content strategy, that's definitely something where very strong local emotions exist. Victoria, you described this. You told me before that you really see this as the battle for entertainment, with as a consequence that maybe not everybody can play this game, right? That there might be parties in this world where you have to say, okay, we'll be the pipes and others play the content game. How do you see this developing at the moment for the United Group?
Yeah, I mean, for United, I mean, we have taken this decision not to be a pipe long time ago, when in 2012 we decided to enter media sector as well. So, I mean, as part of United Group, you have 4 territories where we run not only pay TV channels, but also major national TV stations, which are still the biggest producers of local content. I mean, they also aggregate, but, you know, they really produce a lot, local entertainment, local news, local realities, local series. So this is everything which is being really most highly watched. So, you know, UG, United Group, really has taken this decision a long time ago. But for us, you know, we have a couple of dilemmas how you know the future will play out. So first of all, also in 2016, we decided to invest into our own R&D center or innovation center, which created our own TV platform. So it's a multi-device platform from OTT to hybrid boxes to smart TV applications, and this is our primary video platform that we just launched in Greece as well.
So you technically developed the whole platform?
Yes, everything, yeah.
And also the personalization you just discussed, this is also home?
This is all our product,
yeah.
This is all our product. So this is the product that we run, and I can tell you how, I mean, we are also thinking about the next steps, because we also think that these platforms, the current platforms, don't really have a chance of conquering the hearts and the minds of the new generations, like teenagers or very young people. We think it's a very different type of consumption that we can see now on the current video platforms. So we developed our own platform, our own technology. We introduced a lot of features. We are kind of heading to the 3.0 space, which we call, in a totally different concept of content consumption. And at the same time, we heavily invest in content. So, of course, we are partnering also with all the big guys, but we heavily invest in our local content, try to create synergies also between our small markets, because, the market of, 10 million and the market of 2 million, as we have in our portfolio of 8 markets in Southeast Europe, they're not the same in terms of capabilities of content production. So, Can
you give an example of local content that is super popular, relevant for your audience, that is not news or sports, for instance? Everybody understands news or sports, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll tell you. So first of all, I'll tell you the most popular, let's say, content that we produce for ex-Yugoslavia, for some countries, not all, but 3 or 4 countries where it's the key, is our own talent show. And this talent show is already like 10 seasons or even more, because we bought it like 7 years ago from the local celebrities. So this show, we not only utilize and monetize, for example, now on YouTube and in various digital ways, because there is a lot of spillover that you can content that you can take from it, but we're also selling it to national TV station, which is not ours. Okay, so we are trying to monetize it that way. So for example, and now we're gonna Survivor hasn't been for a long time, but it was extremely popular, so we'll produce also Survivor for the next season, and we think it's going to be very highly watched, because we'll have Croatian participants and Serbian participants. Ooh. And yeah, it's gonna be really fun, and we have a lot of people applying, so this is gonna be key content for us. So these are just some examples, but even the adaptations of the foreign formats that work well are very popular, extremely popular.
Yeah. It's interesting that asking about content, you immediately end up discussing platform as well, because it is not separate. But you decided your own platform and you developing local content. Jonas, Dimitris, how is that for you two? I mean, Jonas, what about the local content in the Nordics? What is super popular there that you wouldn't expect anywhere else, and that maybe Netflix hasn't thought of yet? Don't tell them.
I think, if you take a Nordic perspective, even though the Nordic is quite small, there are some variations in between the countries. But I think what really sort of moves the needle, and not only in the Nordics, but actually outside, also on a European and on a global basis, is the Nordic scripted drama. So, the Nordic noir or the Nordic crime. I think, that's also something that is being exported out of the Nordics to quite large extent. And if we just, double down or double click on our viewing behavior, it is pretty clear that Nordic noir is a big driver. And I think,
but that's interesting as well. That's something that has such a very strong local appeal. Right. Who would have thought 10 years ago that, Brazilians and Australians would watch Swedish, grumpy detectives all the time? I mean, and that's what they do now.
Yeah, there's a lot of grumpy detectives out there. That's fair to say. I think, and it's an interesting aspect, right? Going back to what you referred to, because, we tend to talk about what is international content, what is local content, but there is an interesting sort of value creation opportunity for the content producers also to export it, right? And I think that Nordic Noir basically was originally sort of tilted towards the Nordic audience. However, you also see that it has an international appeal. So that's sort of local content from our perspective that travel globally, which is quite interesting. It goes in circles, you could say.
Yeah, and Dimitris, well, we already mentioned the History Channel. What other local content strategies do you have? And do you also have, there must be a diaspora of Greeks across the world who love to see Greek material, but do you also have exports that, local made stuff that now becomes an international hit?
Well, first of all, going back on Jonas' comments, Nordic Noir is very, very popular on our platform as well. And actually, you guys, I think you made it very clear that non-English speaking content can make it outside your region. So I think this is a step that smaller countries or regions are now following, and we are also on the same path. And we see that also the immense penetration that Netflix has achieved in all the regions. This also has allowed non-English speaking scripted dramas to be, more widely accepted by audiences. So this is allowing producers to go more bold in creating high production value series from smaller regions. And this is how we also started doing our own crime series. Crime series so really work well for the Greek audience for pay TV. And we have produced already three series, and we are now developing 3 more. It's a very small, it's a very small number of own productions in series, but we're just starting. So the good thing is that we have, at least in Greece, a very good cash rebate, film-friendly law that is supporting productions here, in which we are utilizing, and it allows for easier monetization of content. So yes, I think this is one of the topics that we love to discuss, and
it's the golden age of content, that's for sure. I mean,
lots of production.
So many people that want to work in this field can now work in this field, where previously it was very hard to get into. Jörg, from Zatu's point of view, you probably have insights into the popularity of certain types of content across different broadcasters, TV channels, on-demand channels. What do you see happening? Are there new types of content coming up now? I mean, we know series, we know movies, we know sports, we know. What is new? Do you have any insights there? But content that we didn't have before that now suddenly becomes very, very, very popular?
Unfortunately, there's nothing which I could bring up now, which is like a big surprise or whatever. So what we saw, actually, what we analyzed at the beginning of the COVID, but it's just an example that was named already, but where we really looked into detail into the numbers, was regional news, and really regional in the sense of a town or city by city. And that was immense. So it really showed how big interest was suddenly again in local and regional news, and we really, on a show-by-show basis, we analyzed that. That was really very interesting. In general, it's like the examples that already have been given. It's when we look at general TV usage, is the so-called fireplace events, like shows, of course, like Victoria mentioned, which also especially in the countries Germany, Switzerland, Austria, where I'm a little bit more familiar with the TV consumption patterns. It's sports, it's news. It's when we only look into the, let's say, it's a direct-to-consumer user base, which we also have of a relevant size. It's really every now and then surprising that documentaries in general have a very high share of usage time. So was it Victoria? No, or the History Channel, when you mentioned it, and you said that in the Netherlands, you think that a History Channel would not make it. Maybe we should look into operators' data and analyze. I would be surprised if documentaries would not be a genre which is also very being seen in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But this would be some general examples. So from from what I'm looking more into in this sense is how can we make sure that the content that is there in linear TV or in TV, compared to the content that is coming now on on-demand platforms, how can we make sure that the viewers understand the value of the TV content? Because it's so rich. And if we look into Switzerland, for example, where 7 days catch-up is just a given, and on platforms like ours, 250 channels, 7 days, 24 hours, that's more than 40,000 hours of content, of TV content, really good TV content at your fingertips every time and renewing every day. So, and it's more how to make sure that TV distributors like us and our customers, but all the others also, bring this over to the viewer so that they also understand, wow, there is such rich content on these platforms where we are used already to these platforms. It's not only the Netflix and the Amazon Primes and so on. It's really also in classical TV, but with the adapted viewing behavior of catch-up TV, for example.
Yeah. So there's much more, and part of the audience never even realizes it's there,
Exactly.
or they don't understand the interface immediately, or they have to do something, and it's got a different interface than Netflix that you are used to, and then it's already too difficult to find out. Yeah, now I can understand that. I mean, as for completely new content, this was absolutely temporary, but I talked to the people at the JW Player, it's just a white label video player, and they said they analyzed the data at the beginning of the pandemic. This was when everybody had to stay home, and they got this unexpected, huge surge of videos from libraries, and it turned out there was, in a lot of libraries they were reading books to children, and children were chiming in to listen to people reading out the book, which is completely new content. But other than that, I think from a content point of view.
Can I just add for the new content? Actually, we had a very interesting discovery about two things. It's rather not about, and this is when I talk about the different format of video consumption. So, for example, we had the rights for Euro 2020, which was played this year, right, because of pandemic. And we decided to introduce and play a bit with our platform. So we introduced the sports mode, where we used artificial intelligence to actually, or whatever, machine learning, to actually cut the highlights from each match, and where you could also watch like the live statistics. This is the feature of our EON platform. And it was incredible how many people actually consumed football through highlights, because they could very quickly see I was really shocked when my guy said, okay, we want to try it. I said, okay, try. But the consumption was incredible. So people would just look at the goal, foul, penalty, and finish basically watching the whole game in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And this is, maybe it's killing football, but if the subscribers decide to view it that way, they decide to do it. And
but it's also the role of content, right? You want to be able to talk to everybody the next day. So the role of content is sometimes not to consume the content, is to have conversations about it. So that's a different role.
Yeah, I agree. But at the same, football and people with beer, it's still kind of a classic, right? Classic way you watch football. But that was interesting, and also the new thing for us. And in our markets, we didn't have binging before. And with EON, we did introduce binging. So basically, for the subscriber who has EON, our platform, he doesn't have to wait for the whole season of 11 series to episodes to play, in 11 weeks. But he can basically, for €10, watch them all at once. And we found that actually this was also very popular with people. So, in terms of the kind of new things, these were the two discoveries that we did during this year.
I have a lot more questions about content, but we actually have to move to a little bit to the more tech and how you put your services together as well. One thing about content, and then I'll stop, is that podcast about TV shows. They're now separate, unities making them. And they're super popular. Anyway, let's move to what this means. So you have content, you find content, but then you have to deliver it in so many different platforms. The consumer behavior has changed. expect to be able to binge, to personalize and do all these things. And this means that the role of the operator also becomes, what do you do yourself? Do you completely build your platform? Do you, involve different organizations with this? Jörg, I think you know best what change is happening right now when it comes to putting together the offer, what you want to bring to all the consumers, what you develop yourself, what you buy, what you partner for, could you explain a little bit more how you see this market developing? Because it's also about size, right? I mean, what can you do yourself?
I think that's the core question. The core question is, how big have you to be so that it's worth to build your own platform? And when at the end of the day, it's cost per subscriber or cost per household or cost per viewer, and the costs are being driven by complexity, and complexity is increasing with all the examples that have been given in this panel already. So what we definitely see is that it will become more and more difficult for smaller network operators that work more on a regional, maybe even a national basis, to really be able to build and maintain and run a competitive IPTV platform, like Victoria outlined when talking about what the United Group did build. And with this, let's say, barrier going up, we see that more and more network operators really are looking for how to be able to offer a competitive IPTV solution, and more will decide to outsource this to a technology provider that aggregates, again, a lot of operators on their platform to then scale across various operators, so that many operators run at the end of the day on the same technical platform. And by joining this technical platform, so to say, it's possible to have a competitive IPTV platform. And I would foresee that over the next 5 years, if you're not a multinational group, or you have even global ambitions, and if you're not let's say, the national incumbent telco, which every country has at least one, which very often then again are the same like the multinational players. So if you're not one of these groups, then you will not be big enough to run let's say, a profitable TV service, because it's getting too expensive.
Yeah, and this cooperation is, you suggested, different groups using the same platform. I mean, there's also, of course, options to, if everything is digital, you can also take all the services apart and, let them join virtually, from recommendation engines to interface designs to, what is the core? Where is the core, and what can you outsource?
So there's, speaking in let's say, two main dimensions. There's on the one hand side the end-to-end service, where you just say, okay, here's my CRM system, let's get it connected to your platform, and then the whole TV platform is being run by one provider. This would be the Satu model, let's say. So this is how we, as of today, for more than 30 IPTV platforms, we do run their business. And then on the other side, you have, let's call it a best in breed approach, where you would say, okay, maybe the front end solution comes here, the back end solution comes there, the recommendation engine is here, a monitoring tool I take from there, and so on, where you really put it together. But then you still need somebody like a system integrator who first brings it together, and then over the time makes sure that it stays together, because all these services will further develop, and there will be new requirements from operating systems that you want to serve, like connected TVs or mobile devices or whatever. And to keep this together, then all the services from various vendors also brings again a lot of complexity. And there's the one rule that fits it all. For some, it might be best to just have an end-to-end solution. For others, it's more okay, let's put it together and then we make sure it works. What we see that an end-to-end solution like us, we will also have to open in various, let's say, areas of the value chain to be able to, for example, allow a different monitoring service or a different billing service or whatever. Yeah, so to also interact with the platform. So it will go into that direction. But there are these, let's say, two general approaches.
Yeah, and even there, the integrator also becomes a matter of size. So you might have
Absolutely.
a few large integrators in the end. Jonas and Dimitris, how are you running? Because I know, Victoria, you've built your own stuff, so you are in control of everything. Jonas and Dimitris, how are you doing this? Is this something you are working on right now, or is this in the future? I mean, Jonas, you are integrating two, well, I mean, and this is the hardest work there is, right? Different technical systems, different organizations,
Yeah.
put them together. Yay.
I think it's, one key learning from my perspective is that even though Canal Digital and Viasat was at the end of the day delivering the same product, there are so fundamentally different ways of delivering that product. So we're in sort of a process of essentially harmonizing our entire tech stack or setup and looking into basically to launch a new platform here during 2022. So there's a lot of preparations going on. But I think just sort of spending on what Jörg just mentioned, and I think it's an important point that I think being a TV distributor, it becomes so clear to me that it becomes a scale game going forward. And it's not only tech. And the previous one, content, is also the second driver. Because being a relevant distributor and being able to generate returns and attractive financials, you basically need to have the scale in tech investments and on content investments. So I think it's so obvious that in those areas, you need to do the smart, you need to do the right decisions. And the right decisions, they can be different, right? Depending on where you come from, how much you should do in-house, how much you basically should buy on the market off the shelf. But it's really sort of a key question to me, how to get the scale on content and on tech, because that will, at the end of the day, I think the entire distribution market will consolidate going forward. And the scale game on content on tech is really the key driver. You need to be successful there. Otherwise, you will be eliminated over time.
Yeah, tough challenges for you guys ahead. I mean,
Yeah.
Dimitris, if you want to add to that, we have 8 minutes left. So after that you say, then I'm going to ask everybody final question and a special question for Victoria that came in from the audience. All right, Dimitris.
Okay, so very quickly, our platform, the backend is the Comcast platform, and we are developing all the clients, that is the applications for smart TVs, for mobile, and for the set-top boxes. And we are also developing our in-house user interface, and this is allowing us to to be utilizing the knowledge we have gained from all the data we are observing from the usage from our customers, and we continuously renew the user interface according to what we see that really works, and we skip what doesn't. So this is and one of the challenges that we face is that we combine the live with the SVOD in our streaming service, and the concurrency in live streaming in sports and in very hot matches that we broadcast is always a challenge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the challenges to do what you do now are existing, and to grow that and to add new things. My final question would be, okay, where to go from here? Because of course you are also looking ahead already a few years in the future. But there is a question from the audience for Victoria. How popular is the EON platform in Bulgaria among customers of Vivacom? And is there any new local content that we can expect? So there's somebody local asking some insights there. Don't know if you can give it right now, but
well, yeah, I can very briefly answer that. Just for everybody to understand. So Vivacom is a telco operator that we acquired in 2020, and we launched EON in the first quarter of this year. And I can tell you that the pickup, thank you for the question, the pickup was actually really incredible. And honestly, with all these supply shortages, it's not that we are disorganized, but we even ran into problems with shortages of set-top boxes and capacity in terms of installation. So now we are back on track, but we've seen amazing pickup, and we will soon release the numbers. in Bulgaria. And in terms of local content, we also own the biggest national TV station. And we are also really considering, because what EON brings also to the Bulgarian market is various types of how you consume content. Okay, so it's not only which content, but also how you consume, as I explained about binging, as I explained, maybe, you know, to have the premieres. So various kinds of things that we can do in the Bulgarian market. So we still keep the power to produce at the media company. So it is with Nova, because currently it is much easier to monetize the content through advertising and that particular content. But we are now looking at this full, you know, kind of setup that we created this year. We are looking at all different options, and I'm pretty sure that you will hear some news soon.
Okay. All right. Well, since we only have 5 minutes left, I'd love to get a look ahead, and that can be a look ahead for what is the new tech you're looking into that might change the whole game. What is the content type? What is the industry constellation that you think will be completely affecting everything you do? Who wants to look ahead first? Challenging questions here. And you could also just tell us what you are aimed to do with your company. I mean, because that's what we're interested in.
Happy to go first.
Jörg, floor is yours.
I would like to highlight two trends that I would see that are very important for the industry. The one actually gets me excited, or makes me excited. This is, I mean, we are here now talking more from the perspective of the distributors, but there are also the broadcasters. And at least as much as we are under pressure from global competition, it's the broadcasters, maybe even more. And this makes broadcasters more open for new ways of how to use the content, but especially also for new business models. So one side is the catch-up TV, replay TV, and so on area, and the other is new business models, like, for example, dynamic ads insertion, where the commercial breaks are being replaced with online ads. And this opens for distributors actually and broadcasters that jointly have to look, okay, how can we further develop our businesses to compete with the global players. So this brings us together to the table to look at, okay, how can we work together? How can we further evolve? And this really makes me excited. Then there is another trend where I'm not too sure what to make out of it. And this is the increased importance of connected TV in a broader sense. And these connected TVs are being run in the future. It will be just a very few number of operating systems. Which is, first of all, makes it easier. But then these operating systems are managed by players with own video services. And what to think about that? I mean, that's a different level, I would assume, but very important trend, definitely. All these platforms, we have to be there, all of us, we have to be, we have to use them. But then, okay, what is it that the players make out of it?
Yeah, they're just waiting to push you away. Jonas.
I think that if we look at the last 12 months in Europe, it is more than 6,500 original content episodes produced. That is an increase of 50% over the last 2 years. I think that race will continue for a few more years. We will continue to see an expansion of original content. However, it's not sustainable long term. It is very, very expensive to produce that content. So over time, you will see an industry consolidation, especially happening on the asphalt side. But right now, I think everyone who's in the production industry should enjoy the golden era because it will continue a few more years, but the party will eventually be over.
And also the on-demand space. I mean, my daughter has watched all episodes of Friends 3 times now. I mean, this is the time that we're making the stuff that, you know, for a century, everybody will be watching, well, for 10 years, everybody will be watching, right? Because it's so good. Dimitris.
Well, since we don't have so much time, I think that based on where Jonas some pointed, I think that we see, you know, the studios launching increasingly direct-to-consumer services. So this definitely will be covering the extra excess of production going on. But I think there is a difficult task for the studios. So it's very exciting to see what's going to happen, because they have to transform their model from licensing to direct to consumer in such a short time period. And COVID acted as a super booster for streaming, and they have to be positioned wisely in the markets in order to be hitting the very ambitious targets that are announced.
Yeah, absolutely. Victoria, last words for you, and then we're
yeah,
already at the end of
list
this session.
actually, but no, I just said, I'm honestly, there are a lot of challenges because I think nobody knows what the next day brings. I mean, we don't, either for content producers, aggregators, we really don't know. But for me, the biggest challenge, and I'll end with that, is actually to really start preparing how do aggregators or pay TV operators and media producers are getting ready towards the future generations. And when I'm saying future generations, I'm talking about my daughter. I really honestly think that we are still not ready for them. They're very different, they're very short, they're very event oriented, and this is not what we are. So I think this is the biggest challenge for us, but we still have time, I hope.
It's a beautiful note to end on. I have the feeling we could talk for 2 more hours and it would still be super interesting. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up here. I want to thank you all so much. And well, to everybody watching, thank you as well. And keep listening to the other sessions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.